Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Matt O'Neill, coming from the frozen tundra of Nebraska. It's so cold here that it's actually probably illegal to take your dogs for a walk. That's how bad this is. I think we got like another quarter of an inch last night. We have 6 inches on the ground, and it is just brutally cold. I definitely know that when my daughter was supposed to walk home from school today, because we were busy, that would be child abuse. So nobody has to try to report us. I will actually go and get her before my 4 o'clock patient this afternoon. But yes, it is very, very cold here. With those as we go along, obviously you can see the discussion topic of the day of transitioning in life with honor and building lifelong relationships, how to build and maintain relationships throughout your entire life, not just, oh, hey, we're good friends or we're fraternity buddies or anything like that, but how do you truly go through honor in life? And I guess I got to go this way. It's the opposite. So you can see the blessed behind me. One of my employees at Alpha Rehab gave that to me, and she didn't know what Asher's name meant. She didn't have anything there. But my son is Asher. So last year for Christmas, that's what she gave me. And Asher's name actually means happy, and hey, Revi, it means actually happy and blessed. So when she gave that sign to me of blessed, I mean, I had that tattooed on my arm for who this kid is, and that's a representation of me as well. On my back, it is blessed is the man that trusts in the Lord. And so for her to give me that and not know what was going on, that was pretty dang cool. So that's, I have that hanging up there. But we're going to talk about how to transition in life. And we're going to talk about something today that most of us do. They said that the average therapist will do 3 to 4 jobs within the first 2 years after they graduate from college. So they get out of their doctoral program and they go for the money because they have 150 grand worth of debt and they need to go make money. Well, the places that are going to make but they will. The average person will go for money because they're trying to pay for their education and get out of debt, that type of thing. What they don't realize is that they end up giving away more than what that money is worth. They're going to be working nights, they're going to be working weekends, they're going to be working holidays, they're going to be kind of slaves to the grind. They're going to give something up. Then what they do is they go the opposite direction and they go after what they love. Or their passion or something along those lines. So what people do is they go after their passions and they go after what they love or whatever, but they don't get very, very much money. Then after they hit that, then they realize, oh, wait a second, I have a family, I need stability, and they look for something that's long-term. So then they ended up looking for stability. So what we're going to talk about is how to quit a job, how to transition properly with honor. So when one of my employees would come to me and they would say, hey, I'm leaving. Here's my resignation letter. This other job gives me this, or I'm looking for this, What I always tell them is I say, you know what? Okay, I said, I want what's best for you. I want what's best in your life. And if this is the thing that you need to do for your family and for you, that's great. I will support that all day long. But if they come to me and they say, I'm quitting because, or I'm turning my resignation because of this benefit or that benefit, I say the same thing, but then I ask them the question, say, is this final? Have you already made this decision? Have you signed on the dotted line? Have you done that type of thing? And if they say yes, there's a bit of disappointment in me because they never gave me the opportunity to bless them. I don't know what somebody needs, right? I don't have a magical ball or anything like that. I don't know what they need unless they ask for it. But if this person would come to me and say, you know what? I've been here for this long. I've done X, Y, and Z. I promote the company this way. I help with this. I'm a great employee. I'm never sick, right? And they kind of line things out for themselves. And then they ask and say, and because of these things, I would like to do this. Can you do it? What it allows me to do, that's a place of honor and respect that they're coming to me. And it allows me to be able to bless them Now, maybe the finances, they're just asking for too much, and there's no way that I can go compete with that school system or that hospital or whatever. Maybe that's true, but at least I have an option. I have the opportunity to then come back and reaffirm them, say, yes, you are all of these things. You are amazing, and I will do what I can to do this. And yes, we can do this, this, and this, or no, we can't do that, but we could do this. At least it gives me the opportunity. And then I know that I can actually follow through that person with their life, and actually, but it allows me to follow through, and we have a maintained relationship. I have learned through my life that my goal is to never break relationships. So if I go from one job to another, or if I go from one city to another, or if I go from one church to another, whatever, I'm not breaking those relationships along the way. I'm actually living and continuing to be involved in those people's lives, so that if I ever come back and I run into them again, or I need something or whatever, that honor and respect is already there, and you pick up right where you left off. Whereas if somebody leaves us without giving us the opportunity, now if they're a great employee, absolutely, I'm going to do what I can to help them out. I'm going to try to do what I can to make their lives better and to bless them, because that's just what I do, right? I love helping people. But if they leave underneath bad terms on their side of things that they could have controlled, you know what? I'm a little less likely to help them out, if they're trying to burn me in through the process. So when you're going through life, don't burn relationships. Assume that the other person wants to bless you, and they just don't know how, and so you give them that opportunity. Now, of course, if we're talking about relationships like, you're dating or something like that, and you're in a bad situation, get out of it, right? Ghost them, I think is what they say now, right? Ghost somebody and just get out of the thing. But otherwise, build relationships, because those things will actually come back to bless you later on in life. I have people that throughout my life, and Debbie, I mean, obviously you're one of them, you and your husband, we built a relationship, and then I don't get to see you guys maybe every couple years, maybe. But, when you guys came over to my house last year for Dad's going away party, we just picked up instantaneously. That relationship was instantaneous because we didn't break it. Just because we left and moved to a different city didn't mean that we stopped that relationship. And those things are just so important. I believe that you can begin to build off of those relationships. So let's just say that somebody, an employee comes to me and they give me the opportunity to counter the offer. I can't do it, but they leave. Okay, that's great. And then they come back to me a couple years later and say, hey, I need a letter of reference. Or somebody calls me and say, hey, they're looking for a job here. What do you think of them? I can give an unabashedly glowing recommendation for these people and tell them I would hire them back instantaneously, because they're an awesome employee and all these amazing things about the person. As opposed to if somebody calls me and says your employment, and would you hire them again? Well, you know what? They kind of left me high and dry. I'm not one of those people that will sugarcoat when somebody calls me. I'm going to give them the honest answer, because that's what I would expect when I called somebody else asking for a reference. So, somebody calls and says, hey, Seth is applying for this job, blah, blah, blah. And Seth, and I already know about it. I'm not being blindsided by it. Then I can come and say, man, here's everything that I know about Seth. And I do that all the time. I have physical therapy students that have gone through the clinics, and I have people that I'll get reference letters, or I'll get referrals, or I'll get some type of an inquiry 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later of that person. And I will gladly give those people a reference, and I will gladly give them flowing remarks. Not because that's the polite thing to do, but because we never broke relationship. And I can call that person right now and have that thing restored instantaneously. So that's a very, very important thing for people to learn, because the opposite is, again, you just burn bridges and you just move on, and you don't think it'll affect you later on in life, but it really will. So the other thing is, when we're talking about Zavelle, when we're talking about growing this company, growing the brand, all that kind of stuff, is, I might call somebody, that I know and say, hey, are you interested, in a location, or being a brand ambassador or any number of things, but specifically on a location? Well, it's money, right? But these people that I knew in college, they know who I am. I have people from high school that I've been talking to, and they know who I am. And when they hear it, they might be like, yeah, really, this is a bad time for me. I don't have any extra income. I'm not looking for an investment. However, they always refer to me to the next person. So when I call that next person, I say, hey, Dr. So-and-so told me to call you, or, Amy told me to give you a call. And she said that you might be interested in an investment or something along those lines, and I'd like to talk to you about it. So then I'm not walking in even on my laurels. When we started Alpha Rehab, I'll walk you through exactly what we did. I called my cousin, who is a orthopedic physician here in town, and I said, this is what I want to do. Would you recommend me coming to town and doing this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. This is a beautiful town. They'd be great to have you. I said, wonderful. Which banker should I talk to? Because we need to get a loan. And he goes, I have no idea. He goes, talk to our business manager. So I called the business manager and said, hey, Dr. Cowan told me to call you. I'm his cousin, and he told me to call you and find out blah, blah, blah. And I kind of walked him through it. And then he gave me a list of names. Then I called those bankers and I said, this business manager at this company told me to call you. And I walked through it, right? And you're just chaining your relationships together. So finally, it just breaks down all those doors, as opposed to me cold calling a bank and trying to talk to a commercial lender who has no idea who I am, no background. Yeah, I have a doctorate in physical therapy, but, and this is what I want to do, but I don't have that door being opened for me. And it's all about relationship. So I don't anticipate that everybody that comes to work at Zavelle or Prime will be with us forever. I just don't. I think that we're going to be creating greatness from every level of the structure, whether it's being a brand ambassador, whether it's in this mentorship group, whether it's an owner of a Zavelle location. We're going to be developing greatness and pushing greatness in everybody. And people that own locations, some year down the road, 10 years down the road, when they've made millions, they're going to sell it. It's an investment, and they're going to sell it to somebody else to bless them. Somebody that's an employee, whether they're working in operations, they're working in sales, they're working in management, they're working on whatever, they will probably be going on to another job at some point. You see that all the time. You see it in Apple, you see it in Tesla, you see it in Amazon, you see it in all these companies. The executives and the people will change jobs and keep moving up the ladder. And we've already seen that with some of our people as well. They're getting promotions at work, and they're moving on. And that's a blessing to us, but it's a blessing to them. We get to have joy in that relationship. And then people just from brand ambassadors, they're just promoting the name of Zavelle. They're just pushing it out there, trying to allow us a greater reach to help people. And we're going to be able to bless them at the end of the day as well, because they're going to have a great relationship with us. So that's a lot of talking right there. 15 minutes of just talking about relationship. You guys, as I drink with my happy life mug, that's one of my mottos, is happy wife, happy life. Because if my wife is happy, then everything works out well. If I do something stupid to mess with her life, then life of mine and my kids kind of goes downhill there. So I always try to do what I can to help out and to promote her and to push her. And she's going to be on here as well. She's got so much wisdom. She actually added it this morning. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what she was talking about, but it was basically creating habit is better than creating a change. And creating consistency is better than creating just a momentary shift. And that's just, I could speak for another hour on how important that is. I use the phrase, consistency is king. If you can do something over a long period of time, you'll typically beat everybody else that's moving relatively in the same direction or the direction of life. So Europe was really interesting. I've only spent probably, I think I was there for 5 or 6 weeks, and the people that I met that were on tour with us we develop really close relationships there, but we're working around each other and living around each other kind of a thing, 24 hours a day. So from the bus driver to whatever. I think that building relationships is easy when you are an open individual. If you kind of have some barriers, some walls, you've been burnt in the past, and so you kind of just keep people at an arm's length. If that's your reflex, if that's your reality, then it's going to be hard to build those relationships. I had this dream a couple months ago. It's probably 6 or 7 months ago, and what it was basically I was sitting on the front of this porch, and behind me was kind of like the next business, and I think what it ended up being was this Zevelle or this Prime, and there was no door, there was no front door, and kind of what I got in my dream or my vision or whatever was, I need to love without doors. I need to love without barriers to other people. And that doesn't mean that I need to go around and hug everybody. I can wear that shirt that says free hugs. But what it does mean is that I need to treat everybody with honesty, integrity, and honor. And when I do that without creating or without coming from my places where I've been burnt in the past, then I can respond to that person in a very open manner. And we talked about this in our last podcast. If you have big explosions of emotion or reaction or reflexes based on a little tiny problem, then you probably have a trigger somewhere, right? You probably have something in your past where somebody burnt you, and you got to deal with that thing. So what I do is I don't live in that manner. I live from this moment walking forward, and I forgive very, very quickly, and I forgive easily. And so when I build a relationship, so Dahlia, if you would come to the US, or if I'd meet you in Switzerland, I'm going to develop a relationship from a standpoint of honor and integrity instantaneously. And we're going to be best friends for the rest of our lives because we never have to break that. I think it's harder in this generation than it was before, right? Before we had smaller communities. And so you kind of knew everybody. Most people, at least here in the middle of the United States, never really moved beyond 20, 30, 40, 50 miles of their hometown. They kind of just lived in that network. Whereas now everybody has these things. Well, that's not the kids, but phones, right? Everybody has phones. And so it's all here. It's all electronic. It's even all of this stuff. There's very little interaction and ability to develop relationships with people. So my suggestion to that is put your phone down. Obviously, watch these mentorship groups, listen to our podcast, be engaged in those manners, but really go out and just meet people, just live life around people. What's really interesting is there's a documentary on Bill Murray. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's on Netflix or Hulu, one of those two, or Prime. But it's about Bill Murray and these things where Bill Murray just shows up in people's lives and does life with them. Like, he might have a beer, he might go and play the tambourine while some band is playing at somebody's house. He might go and just play kickball with people. And he said he does this because when he recognizes that he needs a jolt in his life, or when he needs to break out because he's put himself in a box, he's put himself in this really narrow space, or when he recognizes he's walking down the street and somebody else is in that manner, he will go and interact with them. He will do life with them. But he's not being abusive. He's not being mean about things. He just inserts himself into their lives for a moment and does life with them, and then he just inserts out. And those people have these amazing memories, but I would be willing to bet that Bill Murray has these amazing memories as well. And so why don't we do that, right? Why don't we interact with the people that are around us from a day-to-day basis? Why don't we get more involved in our neighbors' lives and reach out to them? And they might say no. They might not want us around. They may not be open to that. But that's okay, because that's on their side. At least we made the effort to do that, to kind of recapture some of this older mentality, people that are myself and older, of, go meet your neighbor, go help them out, involve yourselves in those lives, so when they are in a place of need, you can help them out. I think that they've done a study where the majority, I can't remember what it was. It's like 60 or 70% of people in the point of this whole site is to build relationships, to build people up, and to explode all of you onto the world. So if there's something specific you want us to talk about, message us, put comments down below, do whatever, because that's the point of what we're doing and how we're doing it here. Because we could talk forever, but I want this to mean something to you guys. Like us on Zavell, follow us on Instagram and Facebook here, of course. And then once we open a location near you, go and try out, go float, go sauna, go get some oxygen, do those types of things and spread the word. So appreciate it. Have you guys have a great and blessed and warm day.